You are listening to Unified Through Chronic and Mental Illness with your hosts, Angie Roberts and Kimberly Murphy. Please be advised that some of the topics of this podcast can be triggering and sensitive in nature.
There are between 5 to 14 million compulsive hoarders in the United States.
Hey, Spoonies, mental health warriors, our supporters and friends. Welcome to another episode of Unified. I'm Kimberly Murphy here with Angie Roberts.
Hey, guys.
And today we are talking about hoarding. Now, Angie, what is considered hoarding?
Well, the Mayo Clinic says hoarding disorder is a persistent or difficulty in discarding or parting with possessions because of a perceived need to save them. So hoarding is an anxiety disorder, but other types of mental illnesses can go along with it, as such as depression, OCD, which some people might think is weird because OCD, a lot of people think of cleanliness, but you know what I mean, cleaning and checking, but it's
Right,
not
yeah.
always that, right? And ADHD.
Actually, it makes sense to me because, the obsession and compulsion
Right, yeah.
to
But a lot of
collect
people think
things.
it's
Right,
cleaning and checking and cleaning and checking. A lot of times
right.
doctors will tell you that's what it is. And,
Mm-hmm.
So I really wasn't thinking OCD, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that
The
makes sense.
ADHD really does make sense to me because when your brain is scattered, you're just so, it's really hard to get everything together.
Uh-huh.
So I think undiagnosed it would be horrible.
Right.
You know,
See, I'm not understanding how ADHD would factor into hoarding. Now, you have ADD, correct?
no, I have ADHD.
Oh, you do. Okay. So
I have
maybe
ADHD.
you can shine some light into how, like, undiagnosed or untreated, how would that kind of express itself in hoarding? Like, would it just be a situation where you wouldn't necessarily get
You
to
know,
that point because you wouldn't realize it, or
yeah, exactly. I do a
huh?
lot of like pacing, and I'm not on my ADHD medicine right now, so it's hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see where a lot of things seem to pass you by.
Mm-hmm.
You don't seem to think about cleaning a lot or
Right.
doing things like that. So I can see where it could go along with it to actually just be the disorder. No, but it's actually an anxiety disorder just in itself. So to add something to it
Mm-hmm.
just makes it harder, I think.
Right. And this is like different than like shopping addiction where people feel better because they buy something. This is more uh
Well,
no?
the shopping addictions can lead to hoarding.
Oh, okay.
I've seen shopping addictions lead to hoarding, but not a lot of people, But
Right.
hoarding is different than collecting also.
Mm-hmm.
So collecting is like people who collect things such as, stamps, sports cards,
Right.
or sports cars, one or the other.
Right. If you have that kind of money, good for you.
Right. They deliberately search out the specific item, and then they categorize it and they display the item, and it's different than the hoarders who just have everything piled up and they don't know where things are, and
And they
and
put
nothing is
like
is array. It's everything is just crazy.
right, and they put an attachment or a meaning onto that item.
Right.
Right. So like if
Right.
they were to get rid of the item, they feel like they're getting rid of the memory or the meaning attached to that item.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Or if it's because later on we talk about sometimes it's because of that, or sometimes it's just they feel the need that the item is later going to be used,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
makes them anxious that, oh, I might need that. I might need that. I might need that.
Well, it sounds like my husband.
Uh-oh.
I don't let him keep
Uh-oh.
everything though. I'm serious. Anyways, yeah.
So some of the signs and symptoms,
Mhm.
um, excessively acquiring items that are not needed or for which there is no space. So that's kind
Right.
of what we were just talking about.
Right.
Persistent difficulty throwing out or parting for things regardless of actual value. It can be a broken cup, but it was your mom's, so
Or
we
they're
have to
gonna
keep it.
fix it. They're gonna
Or they're
fix
gonna
it.
fix it, right?
Or I was like, I think everybody's familiar with the show Hoarders.
Right.
It's very popular. And a lot of the hoarders, they'll have newspapers. Like they collect all these newspapers or magazines from way back. And for some reason, they find a lot of value in keeping those, and they'll just have stacks and stacks of newspapers and magazines and mail and you know just these
Yeah.
things that we wouldn't find value in, but they do.
They're
So,
worried that they're gonna need them later,
right,
right? Feeling a need to save these items and being upset by the thought of discarding them is also a sign or a symptom.
hmm
So, excuse me. Um,
right. So if they get really upset,
right. If yeah. And then building up of clutter to the point where rooms are unusable. You just,
I know.
uh,
See, like, because there's like a lot of these shows where maybe one of the children move out and they start using that room for storage,
right.
or the bathroom is storage, so they can't use that bathroom anymore.
Yes.
Um, so they're talking to that point, right?
Right. To that point.
Okay.
And then they also have a tendency toward indecisiveness, perfectionism, avoidance, procrastinations, and problems with planning and organizing.
Now, I don't understand the perfectionism. That doesn't sound right to me. Like you say all these other
Mhm.
things, I'm like, okay, 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 but
That makes sense, right?
right, but the
But
perfectionism is like, what? I don't get that, but okay.
I don't quite get it either. I got this from the Mayo Clinic.
Right? Maybe it's like because
But
they have a
um
tendency to like, maybe because they have like in this situation where they're stacking their papers and everything has its place. Um, in the
right,
organizing and planning, maybe that's what they mean.
they have problems with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
But perfectionism, I'm not
hmm.
sure about.
Yeah,
Sorry, y'all.
I don't know. I think everybody's probably like, what? But yeah,
Maybe that was a
okay.
typo. I
Maybe.
don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. That's interesting though. That is interesting though, if they have a tendency towards that, because perfectionism does cause a lot of issues. So maybe it's to the point where if you have anxiety and perfectionism at the same time, it can cause you to do some strange things, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So hello, our mascot, who is now Jasper.
Oh,
Everybody who
well,
hasn't met
hi,
Jasper
Jasper.
yet, Jasper's decided to come and say hi. Perfect
Jasper.
episode because he's a new cat, and we'll be talking about animals in a little bit.
Yes. Uh-huh. So the results of hoarding and refusing to discard result in many things. Um, of course, disorganized piles and stacks of newspapers, clothes, papers, books, and sentimental items. That's usually what's a lot of things that are stacked around.
They think
Because
everything's sentimental, though. That's part of the problem.
right.
Yeah,
Possessions that crowd and clutter walking spaces, living areas, and make spaces unusable for the intended purposes. Like you can't cook in the kitchen, you can't use the bathroom for bathing, um, things like that.
right.
Like you can't use the living room for a sitting area. Um, it's just everything has become full of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A buildup of food and trash that usually,
It's super
excuse me,
unsanitary. Yeah.
sorry, it's unusually excessively and unsanitary. Um, you also have conflict with others that try to reduce and remove the clutter
Mm-hmm.
and difficulty. Of course, they say difficulty in the organizing of items, sometimes losing, like important items in the clutter. Like you probably lose, oh my gosh, I can't even think of what you would lose, but maybe your birth certificates and your
Mm-hmm.
all this important papers that because you think everything's important you're saving, and
Yeah.
or your current bills or
Right.
whatever.
I had a friend in elementary school and middle school that lived in a hoarding situation, and she never wanted to have friends come over because she was embarrassed about it. And eventually she trusted me enough to have me come over, and it was like a path through the house. And
Right.
there was just boxes and boxes and boxes. And the first thought I had is, what if there was a fire? Like,
Yeah,
how would you get out of here?
it's a fire hazard.
Hmm. And so
Definitely.
I imagine that like firefighters must really cringe at situations like this because I mean, how would you get anybody out? And it must be a huge fire hazard. So yeah. And then if they have pets in this situation as well, that becomes, more of a problem.
Right.
So it's
And
sad. Yeah.
another a risk of hoarding is like rats and
Hmm.
bed bugs and lice and
Yeah.
all that gross stuff,
Hmm.
mites,
Hmm.
maggots. I mean, um,
Yeah.
getting, because they don't discard their food properly, they don't do anything properly. So eventually it becomes a safety hazard.
Yeah. Like she had to climb over boxes and stuff to get to the bathroom. This is a kid, like she had to just to wash up to get to school. It was horrible. And I don't know how she maintained such a normal life outside of her home. I give her so much credit for that, because it was so hard. I can't imagine having to grow up like that, with a mom
It's
that hoarded.
probably the only thing she could control.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So, and we do have a neighbor that is going through this, but I don't know how it's happened, but the family has convinced them to get rid of a bunch of stuff and it's working out. So, um,
that's great.
maybe some treatment was involved. So there is hope
Right.
for people who are in this situation. Um,
There really is.
mhm,
Right.
yeah. So what are so we're talking about the complications. So people can obviously have stuff topple on top of them.
Right. Right. Increased fall risk.
Hmm.
Just being trapped by shifting items.
Right.
Can you imagine like some of those? I've just, if
Yeah.
you've seen hoarders, you totally understand.
Right.
Some of that stuff that could just fall and just get you
And they're kind of
trapped.
isolated because like they don't want to have people
Hmm.
come over.
Right.
Um, and their family gets pretty upset with them.
Yeah, they have lots of family conflicts,
Hmm.
lots of loneliness and isolation,
Evictions.
evictions. Um, and as we said before, it's a fire hazard. So
Yeah. So that's really sad because they really can't control what they're doing, and it really does control their lives. So it's really not their fault. Um,
no, it's an actual disorder.
mhm,
So it's not their fault.
right.
They don't
So
mean for it to happen.
when does this usually like, okay, so when does this usually start? Does it evolve from something else or how does this happen?
Well, it says that they say it usually starts around 11 to 15 years of age, which is interesting.
Mm, Yeah.
and it tends to grow worse with age, but it's more common in older adults.
Hmm.
And then a personality, many people with hoarding disorder have a temperament that includes indecisiveness,
Oh,
which I
okay.
thought was interesting. Um, but makes sense
I-
because you would be very indecisive about what you throw away, what you don't throw away, what you,
What you might need later, what you might not need. That makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
And then a family history. A family history can cause you to have a hoarding issue
Hmm.
or a stressful life event, trying to deal with a cope with a death, or maybe you lost your home and now you're in a smaller area and you just, you know, I don't know,
Or,
just all kinds of
I
life
saw that
events that,
a woman had, like, her husband died. And ever since then, like, that's what filled the emptiness. She felt that's what filled the emptiness, collecting all this stuff. So it's really strange, like, what can trigger it. And,
right?
why they seem unrelated, but for some reason it makes them feel better. And it just triggers that for some reason. So I just wanted to talk a little bit too about another type of hoarding that, I think people are also familiar with. And they say it's caused by obsessive compulsive disorder. So again, kind of interesting. And that's animal hoarding. So there are three types of animal hoarding, and one is the overwhelmed caregiver. And this is a person that usually has really good intentions of taking care of animals, but the situation becomes overwhelming really quick. So it could be somebody who's like the person who takes care of cats and they call her the cat lady, and people keep bringing the cats to her, and the situation just spins out of control. Or maybe it's somebody who has animals, and because of a medical issue or they've lost their job or whatever, suddenly they find themselves unable to care for them. Or maybe they have a colony of cats outside that they're taking care of, and it's getting to the point where they can't. And then there's the rescue hoarder, and this is actually really common. This one is the most common, I think. Um, and for those who don't know, I volunteer for uh, a shelter. So I see a lot of these animals that get brought back to us. So we see this a lot. The rescue hoarders are the ones who have a compulsive need to rescue animals from places like the Humane Society, where they used to do euthanasia, and other shelters that still do it. They see it as like they're saving the animals. In their eyes, no matter what kind of treatment they give the animals, it's got to be better than what was going to happen to them. So these animals don't get any vet treatment. Sometimes they'll be in cages stacked one upon the other, and they never really get out of their crates. They lack socialization. They can live in horrendous situations where there's feces all over the place. They could be fighting for food. They could be getting infections just from the unsanitary conditions. And it's always a really one of those outrageous situations where there's like 50 animals in one small space.
Right.
And then there's the exploiter hoarder, which is these are the people that breed the animals and they don't really care about them at all. So again, these are the ones that are just stuck in crates. Nobody cares about socializing them. And they can actually be really violent towards humans because they have no socialization at all. They're just bred to be sold. The rescue
That's
hoarder,
horrible.
I know, they're the worst.
So
They're the
horrible.
worst. I know. The rescue hoarder and the overwhelmed caregiver, it's hard to be upset with them because they truly believe that they are doing good. And
Right.
so they will even they don't understand, like they for some reason don't see that their animals are hurting, that they have animals that died, that they have dead animals on their property, that they have animals that are suffering, that are sick. Like for some reason they don't see that, and they feel like they are doing really well, and they'll say to animal control, I'm doing a really good job taking care of my animals. You can't take them from me. They're like my children. I feed them, I take care of them. They're my babies, and they have a really strong attachment. But anybody else that goes in can smell a huge stench of ammonia, and they
Right.
can see that there's no cat litter boxes, there's no place for them to go, they're just going everywhere, and the conditions are just horrible and horrendous.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of the cats are just really sick and spreading disease. So this is a bad situation. And it's really sad when the animals get taken away. The hoarder is just heartbroken and crying, and because in this situation you can't just do therapy and do a little at a time. They have to remove the animals for the animals' sake,
Right.
because they're in danger, and so they just get stripped away. And a lot of times these people get angry. They do lawsuits. They will try to get their animals back. Some of them have orders put on them so that they cannot adopt anywhere else, because they will try to adopt more animals elsewhere. They'll go on websites because they can't go to the rescues anymore. They'll go on
Mhm.
websites. And some of these people have legal rescue status. So you got to be careful, because some of these people they do have legitimate rescue status, but
Right.
they don't, they don't,
Mhm.
obviously take care of their pets. So, and then they'll just go on like Craigslist or, wherever people are advertising, and they'll go and rescue those animals instead. So it's really important, if somebody is rehoming an animal, or just please, 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 please vet the people that are coming to pick up a pet from you, because you really don't want that cat or dog to end up in a hoarding situation. Um, and they could. So always keep that in mind. Really check out the person that's coming to see you, and I don't know, just if you get a bad feeling in your gut, trust it. Trust it. I actually have seen some people that were kind of iffy, and I had a bad feeling about, and you can kind of tell. Not always, but sometimes you can just get a feeling that the person isn't quite right. So just ask a lot of questions, and just see if you feel like that person has too many cats already. Ask them questions. And that's the other thing. Some places will say that 15 is the number. There's no magical number. If you have 30 cats and you can take care of them all, and your place is clean, they're well taken care of, you can take them to the vet, you're feeding them well, their boxes are clean, and great. That's good for you, and that's okay. Some places do have laws that you can only have so many within city limits. You got to check your laws, but if you can take care of them, that's great. It really depends
Yeah.
on how well the animals are being taken care of. That's really what it boils down to. So, but I
Okay.
just wanted to mention it because it is another type of hoarding.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just sad because it is hurting another living being. So,
It is.
yeah, in cases with the other hoarders, they're collecting things, and in this case, it is harming a living being. So
Right.
yeah,
We don't want that.
no,
We don't like
no,
that.
we don't. No, we don't. So yeah, I thought that was important to mention. Um,
Yes, we definitely need to talk about animal hoarding because it doesn't get enough attention, I don't think,
no, not
of
really.
what, that actually,
I mean, like you'll
uh,
hear a story, like if there's a really bad situation where there's like a
right.
hundred or more, you'll hear it in the news. Oh,
That's what
and
I
that's
meant.
it. That's
Yeah,
the
that's what I
other
was gonna
thing I
say.
do want to mention is if there is a hoarding situation, and this should actually mean something to people, because if there's a hoarding situation and there's like 50 to 100 to more that or more, it can actually shut down a shelter. It puts so much stress financially on a shelter that it can literally shut them down permanently. And they don't they don't get tax money from people. So, and even if they did, it's not up to the taxpayers to pay for that. You know what I'm saying? So, they shouldn't have to do that. So anyway, the animals get spread out through different shelters. They get sent out so that everybody can sort of handle that financial load.
Right.
Because otherwise the shelters would get shut down. And it's really hard for the shelters to handle that. So it's really difficult. So, donating to your shelters when you hear of a case like that helps them a lot. So whether you bring food in or give them money or give volunteer time, whatever you can do, if you hear of a hoarder situation that has happened in your area, give them a call and ask what you can do. Every little bit helps. And, whatever you can do.
The National Alliance on Mental Illness. Then the number is 800-462-7337. 800-462-7337.
Okay. And I think it's just really important for people to remember, as frustrated as you are with your friend, your family member, whoever it may be, they really truly believe they're doing good if it's a animal hoarding situation. They really truly think that their things are important if it's a hoarding situation. They really don't understand that it's wrong. So as frustrated as you might be, please just try not to be too hard on them. Let them get the help. They need to get help. Let them get the help that they need.
Remember, it is a mental disorder. They're not just doing it to do it.
Exactly. It's a mental health issue that needs to be solved. So try to give them some grace while they're getting the help that they need.
Definitely.
So what is the mantra for this week, Angie?
The task ahead of you is never greater than the strength within you.
And that is really true. And I know that when you're in a situation that seems this big, and I'm sure it seems, oh my God, like that mountain must seem so high in this situation. Could you imagine?
No.
There is. I mean, it can be overcome. It's happened. Other people have done it. So we know it can be done. And there is great strength in every person who believes. So you just have to get that help and believe in yourself, and they will help you believe in yourself.
Right.
And you'll get there. I believe that every person can get there.
Oh, I do too.
And you animal
Whether it's
lovers,
animal hoarding or hoarding or any kind of hoarding.
You animal lovers out there, once you get the help you need, there are places that need you. Your love can be used in a healthy way to help those animals, and there is a place for you. So it's not like you know what I mean? It's not like it's going to waste. We still need you. So get the help that you need, and then, you'll find your place where you can do some good. So with that,
sorry,
it's a hard situation. It must be, with me as an animal lover, I can't imagine what they go through. I just imagine someone coming and taking my animals, taking my cats and dog. I just couldn't imagine how I would feel. And they would feel the same way. I know they would feel the same way. So, and to be told that you're not taking good care of them. So I could just imagine how bad that feels. So I definitely sympathize. And I just want them to get the help. Anyway, we hope that you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you did get something out of it, please like, share, follow, or subscribe. We really need your help in getting our name out there. We appreciate the love that you're starting to show us, and we are getting more people. And we love the comments that we've been getting lately and the voice messages at anchor.fm/unified. It's been wonderful to hear your voices. All of our social media information will be announced in a moment. Please join us next week for a brand new episode. You don't want to miss it. Until then, thank you for listening, and please remember that we are stronger together.
Peace out, y'all.
Unified through chronic and mental illness can be found at anchor.fm/unified. There you can find all social media links as well as other ways to listen.